Welcome to the Offshore Club's most riveting and revealing offshore lifestyle podcast, Open Mike, with Mike Cobb. For more than 20 years, Mike has worked and lived in Caribbean countries from north to south and the Atlantic to the Pacific. Nobody knows it better. And now, here is your offshore ambassador at large, Mike Cobb.
Hi, this is Carib Carter Clues, and right now you're saying to me, oh no, what are we seeing Carib Carter for again? We thought we got rid of him on Monday with Coffee with Carib Carter, and here he is again, like a bad penny that keeps coming back. But this time I have good news for you, because I'm a $1 million deal for you, because I have with me, as you can see, the not a offshore entrepreneur, the capital THE offshore entrepreneur, Mike Cobb. Okay. And Mike, thank you for, I was going to say for joining me, but actually I'm joining Mike because this is his open mic show. We're just getting a new format.
It is, but I like the new format. Thank you, Carter, for helping me to put this together. You know, one of the things that I've always found is that when I have conversations, I end up saying things that I didn't really know that I knew, right? It just sort of comes out. And I think that's really that's wisdom. When it comes out like that, it's wisdom. It's not pre-planned. It's not programmed. Like you ask a question or we're having a conversation and all of a sudden, like, wow, I'm saying something that just is kind of newly forming in my mind. Well, that's what a conversation allows. So thank you for agreeing to kind of modify the format so we could have a conversation every Friday. I think it'll be a lot more informative and a lot more interesting for folks who are watching.
I think it will too. And I should add that Mike and I have been friends for 20 years. Okay.
Yeah.
20 years. We met actually in Panama. We were both at a conference and we met there and we've been friends ever since. And for my part, a tremendous admirer of his. And what we're going to talk about, and this is what really sets Open Mike apart now, is when I talk to you with Coffee with Carib Carter, I talk to you about great land deals and lifestyle and all that. This actually is going to talk to you about investing offshore, because this gentleman is the world's greatest offshore investor. Okay, Mike, how many residential resort communities do you own?
We have 3 communities up and active. We have a 4th property that we own. We haven't developed, and we're getting ready. We're looking at property in Mexico right now for a 5th country and a 5th set of communities. So yeah, it's exciting.
It's exciting, and it's not like, you know, Mike was not born. And I want to set this. I really want to set the stage here. It's not like I'm not talking to Mike Rockefeller. I'm talking to Mike Cobb. Okay, he wasn't born with massive wealth and a silver spoon. You started out right in a middle class family, right?
Yeah. Both my parents. My dad was a college professor. My mom was a elementary school teacher. I grew up in Northwest Pennsylvania, and for me, there's always been this sort of sense of adventure that I've enjoyed, you know, even as a child, doing a lot of, traveling with my parents. We were very fortunate. My dad would teach in Europe a few summers. And so I got to spend some time, overseas growing up. And I think that probably really opened my eyes to opportunities outside the United States. And when I graduated from college in 1986, I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, Northern Virginia, and I got into the computer business. But there's some interesting parallels, Carter, to what happened, because I got in 1986 on the PC side of the business. And as you guys, if you're old enough to remember, back in the 80s, mainframes were the computers there, you had these giant computers in the basement of buildings, and you had these really smart, computer science guys and programmers who were, down there working on it. And maybe you had a dumb terminal at your desk somewhere. But, by the mid 80s, these things called PCs, personal computers, were just coming out, XTs and 286s and 386s. And, the people on the PC side of things, were like, this is revolutionary and this is where it's going. And the people in the mainframes were like, you got to be kidding me. These little things on top of people's desks, nobody's going to use those things. I mean, we got all the computing power in the basement, right? Well, obviously, here we are, 40 years later. And wow, I mean, mainframes are pretty much gone. There's still a few out there. PCs have taken over. And so if you were fortunate enough and I use the word fortunate because I graduated as a political science major in college. I didn't know what I was doing. I fell into sales, and I got lucky and got in on the PC side of the business. So I was fortunate to be on the side of the business that was in ascendance, revolutionary time, real paradigm shift in the computer business, and was fortunate to be in that for about 13 years. Started doing some business south of the border, and we can talk about that a little bit. But just to wrap up the concept, what we've seen in the last 25 years, which is how long I've been in the development business in Latin America. We started our company, ECI Development, 25 years ago. There aren't many development companies who can say we're in our 25th year of business.
Yeah, that's great.
Most development companies that were around 25 years ago are simply out of business at this point. But what started to happen maybe 20 years ago, we could see it on the horizon 25, 28 years ago. But about 20 years ago, this powerful revolutionary shift occurred in the development business, with more and more people understanding the quality of life and the affordability overseas in retirement, especially the baby boomers leading that. And so, it was kind of nice to take this concept of revolution in the PC business and take this big paradigm shift that was happening in the development industry overseas and take that and leverage it forward. So the big picture concept, that's really, how I think, been able to spot the trends and be able to stay in front of this path of progress that has been occurring throughout, Latin America, for a long, long time.
That's perfect. And I'm glad you said the trends, because folks, that's what's important for you as potential investors. And again, this show is an investment show. I'm really excited about it because I love the lifestyle shows. I absolutely, if you watch Carib Carter, Coffee with Carib Carter, and please tell me you do, please, every Monday at 10 o'clock, then I love the lifestyle. Like, I own a home in Honduras, and my wife is from Honduras. So, but this is a show where you not only do you get some of the lifestyle, but you also get investment advice in the places where I think, and Mike, you're the expert. Guys, this is the expert here. This is not just somebody saying like, well, I think that this, he's done it. He's been there. He's done that. He is your millionaire next door. So what you have, I want you to think about something. Mike, I think you're going to find this interesting. When I was a kid, and that was a very long time ago, my dad was a minister in Hollywood, Maryland, right? Now we're talking 60 years ago, okay? And there was a place called Solomon's Island. And I remember somebody saying to Dad, Reverend, you can buy an acre of land for $10 there. You ought to buy a couple of acres. My father said, where am I going to get $10, right? And today, that acre of land is $315,000. Yeah. That's the median. Okay, folks, what we're telling you right now is it's your acre of land. We're focusing on Nicaragua today. Your acre of land is there. Yeah. Mike, am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely right. And there's a great chart which I call the popularity chart, and it's in. We have several resources. We have a consumer resource guide, which I hope people will request. If you're thinking about anything overseas, owning a vacation property, owning a retirement property, making an investment overseas, if you're thinking about anything transactional outside the United States or Canada, please, please, please request the Consumer Resource Guide. It is a document that we've put together over the last 25 years, chock full of questions that we should be asking, ways of thinking, mini country handbooks. It's not a sales document. I mean, it is well, and then there's this one, the Nicaragua handbook specific. We're talking about Nicaragua today.
Incredible.
But the thing to kind of remember is this idea of a time machine, right? And so you've got different countries in the region that are more and less popular. Let me just pick three real fast. In Central America, to make it real simple, a country like Costa Rica is probably the most popular country in Central America. And a country like Nicaragua is probably the least popular country. And a country like Belize or Panama is somewhere in the middle, right? They're more popular than Nicaragua, but not quite as popular as Costa Rica. And so we have this chart that I've developed and a whole article that's in the Consumer Resource Guide that goes around this. But the idea is that So, for example, Cardi said Hollywood, Maryland. If a young couple gets married in Hollywood, Maryland, and want to go on their honeymoon, they're probably, if they're thinking about Central America, they're probably going to Costa Rica, right? Like, yeah, maybe Belize, but not many of them going to Nicaragua. Okay,
but they should.
But they should. Yeah, they should. And by the way, not only have I invested in the region and worked in the region, I personally lived in Nicaragua for 14 years. I took my wife and 2-year-old daughter. We moved down there for what we thought would be just a few years to get our project started, our Grand Pacifica community there. And we ended up staying 14 years because my wife loved it. And so not only have I invested in the region, I've lived as an expat. And raised a family overseas. So the quality of life and the affordability is something very personal to me as well as professional, right? There's certainly a professional side of it, but it's very personal too. But the thing to remember about a country like Nicaragua, it's not very popular. So therefore, the price of property is very, very low, kind of like Solomon's Island, 60 years ago, right? And so if you're looking for price appreciation as a country becomes more and more popular, you want to locate in a country like Nicaragua because the property prices are very, very low. And as Nicaragua grows in popularity, which it has been, for 20 years, and it continues to grow, the price of properties will continue to appreciate. So at a big picture level, appreciation you're going to find in less popular countries. On the other hand, if you said, what, I want predictable, strong cash flow, well, then you probably want to own a property in Costa Rica because guess what? Lots of honeymooners going to Costa Rica, lots of people going on vacation to Costa Rica. So you get more predictability, you get more cash flow, you'll pay more for your properties, right? So your yield might not be tremendous, but you're going to get predictability and cash flow. So depending on the type of investor you are, you want to put yourself into this range of properties. If you're, again, looking for appreciation, less popular, looking for cash flow, more popular. And then, I know we're talking about Nicaragua today, but, a country like Belize or even a country like Panama, they're kind of in the middle. They're halfway up the curve, say, which makes them kind of in the sweet spot because you still got room for appreciation, but they're popular enough to cash flow. So again, depending on what you're looking for as an investor, different countries, different types of investment are going to make more or less sense for you.
I love that, and I think I think I should have set the table properly here. Today we're focused on Nicaragua, because of just what you just said. Because I think it is a great investment.
It is,
and I know Mike does too. And to me, Mike, it's kind of like in 1980 when you talked about whether you want to invest in Costa Rica or Nicaragua. Kind of like in 1980, if somebody said to you, "You want to buy some stock in Apple or IBM?" Well, you know what? IBM was pretty damn safe in 1980, and your return on investment was not too good. If you had invested the same $1,000 in Apple, you'd be a millionaire now. Nicaragua's Apple. Yep. Nicaragua's Apple. Mike, I'm going to say something. You may say, Carter, I don't buy that. Here's how I feel about Costa Rica. You've noticed, anybody who watches Coffee with Carib Carter, notice I've never tried to tell you, hey, here's a good deal in Costa Rica. To me, Costa Rica is second world living at first world prices. I'm sorry, that's just how I feel.
Well,
that's how I feel.
Hey, look, I mean that's an honest opinion you're giving.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't frame it quite like that, but that's okay. I mean, that's but yes, it's expensive by Central American standards.
Yes.
Costa Rica is expensive, and it is not measurably nicer than any other country in the region. In fact, again, I lived in Nicaragua for 14 years. My preference is Nicaragua, hands down. I loved when I lived in Nicaragua. I don't live there anymore, but I loved it. It was, the quality of life was tremendous. Cost of living insanely cheap. Yeah,
incredible. Yeah. And so what we're going to do is, I want everybody here after this show. Don't leave and do it right now. After this show, I want you to go to ecidevelopment.com. And if you leave about 2/3 way down the homepage, you'll see the handbooks. They're right across there. Yep. And click on the Nicaragua, okay? Yep. Because that's this one right here. And I'm telling you, it is a fantastic handbook because it tells you everything you need to know. And why, and as you read it, you're going to realize why we're talking about it as an investment. Table of contents: weather and climate, society, culture, places to visit, cuisine, medical and healthcare, outside the city. So, and Mike knows this. Mike owns Grand Pacific in Nicaragua.
Yep.
In Belize, it's Grand Bayman. Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
And then Costa Rica
Is Grand Caribbean.
Grand Caribbean, right?
And Panama is Gran Islotes, and then our newest community there is the Freedom Village up in the highlands, up in the mountains.
Yeah, and we have talked about that. It's up in Boquete area, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which actually for me is where I'd want to go, because I'm not a beach person. You might say, so yeah, Carter, you're not a beach person, yet you went and bought a home in Honduras that's a beach, one giant damn beach. Well, believe it or not, but the other day I tried to persuade my wife, let's make another investment in La Ceiba, and she said, I don't like beaches. And I thought, well, this is just, you were raised on the beach. Well, maybe that's why. But at any rate, so if you get this handbook, look at the table of contents, and you're going to see why we're saying to you it's a good time to buy. Now, let me put it in context again. 10,000 people a month are moving out of California.
Yeah.
10,000 people, and that's going to accelerate. Tony Robbins, we all know Tony Robbins, who I like a lot. Tony Robbins said on one of his shows that when he left California, he saved $13 million a year in taxes.
Yep.
Why would anyone? But people are looking. They're going to be looking for places that have that kind of weather, that have that kind of beachfronts.
Yeah, and that's a great point, by the way. Southern California, along the coast, say from maybe Malibu down, really has a very similar climate to and geography to the coastline of Nicaragua. That was the thing that when we first went there in 1999, 2000, started looking for property. I mean, it just screamed to me California 75 years ago, right? That I just was. I mean, Carter. Right. It's just incredible. We purchased. I tell people it's common knowledge. I mean, we purchased 3.5 miles of beachfront property. The property's a mile deep. It's 2,500 acres. Imagine a rectangle, a mile deep and 3.5 miles of beachfront property. And we purchased that property for $2.5 million. I mean, like in California, you'd be in the hundreds of millions of dollars if you could even find a piece of property that big on the coast. And so, I mean, that's that $10 Solomon Island acre of property, right? And now we're here, 20 years later, or 21, 22 years later, you're not going to find that same opportunity again. But, an oceanfront condo, Carter, for $139,000. At Grand Pacifica, home sites on the water, beautiful Pacific Ocean views from $200,000 to $300,000, right? I mean, this is an acre on the ocean for, I don't know, just right around 300, just under 300. Homes with an direct ocean view, again, in that, $200,000-$300,000 range. So the affordability is 1/10 or less what you would pay in California, without all the tax hassles and regulatory nonsense. And, and the other thing that's really cool about
1/10, I'm going to reemphasize it. Folks, he's talking to you about investment advice here. 1/10 of the cost.
Yeah. And one quarter the price of Costa Rica. I mean, so you're talking, compared to Costa Rica, it's a quarter the price. Compared to Panama, it's maybe half the price. Right. So, again, even in the region, it's a bargain. The thing that I've always said about Nicaragua and I love about the country is this incredible freedom that they really let happen. A lot of people remember, the Sandinistas in the Civil War from the 70s. I mean, it ended in 1989, call it 1990. What's that, 30 years ago? I mean, it's just not even a factor anymore, right? It's what we kind of remember because that was the news cycle for 10 years, but that's over, gone, done. I mean, 30 years, that's a generation and a half, right? So it's just not even relevant anymore. But the level of freedom that country has really given is incredible. And that's what resonated with me and has resonated with a lot of the folks who are deciding to own properties in Nicaragua, is just this real hands-off, laissez-faire type of attitude towards foreign investment and property ownership, which is quite honestly refreshing, exceptionally refreshing.
And I'm going to just say it point blank, blunt out. You are not going to find that in America ever again. It's not going to happen. I have a fire pit in my backyard. It's the worst investment I ever made, Mike, because the damn city of York won't let you put a fire in your fire pit without throwing a hissy fit.
Wow.
Now, fortunately, okay. I have a home in West Virginia in the country, and I have a fire pit there. I can burn whatever the hell I want. But that's it, folks. It's going to keep on. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't.
Right.
How about going somewhere where it's free and the investment's good? And you brought up, Ortega is the president there. And yeah. This is, well, I had to laugh when you said it because Mike knows this, but a lot of folks don't. I spent almost 50 years in politics in Washington. And in the early 1980s, a big part of my job as the director of communications for the U.S. Senate and working with Ronald Reagan was to stop Daniel Ortega.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I met him today, the first thing I'd do would be apologize. Because it's like, to me, he's the best leader in Central America. And people are going to wonder. I know everybody's wondering, so I'm going to ask you point blank. How safe is your investment in Nicaragua?
Yeah. Well, let me cover safety a couple different ways. One, okay. Safety of investment, but also personal safety, because a lot of times people ask about personal safety. They're similar. But let me start with the one that I get asked a lot more than the investment, which is personal safety. I took my wife is a blonde. I had 2 tow-headed daughters. We did not look Nicaraguan at all, and we not a bit. And we lived in Nicaragua for 14 years. My wife would drive our daughters around. I mean, I traveled a lot. I was on the road 2 to 3 weeks a month. My wife lived in Nicaragua for 14 years with our 2 daughters, okay? They would drive anywhere and everywhere, up into the mountains, down, these ancient dirt-rutted roads to find a butterfly farm in the middle of nowhere, beaches that were inaccessible. Generally they would, they'd go and they'd get stuck in the mud and they'd find a farmer to, get the oxen. I think on 2 separate occasions, they literally got stuck in horrible, rutted, muddy roads and had to go find a farmer to pull them out, right? And it's, my wife and a couple little tow-headed kids, right? And so, but again, no fear. And in 14 years, the only act of crime that ever happened to us was that our we call him a caretaker, but I mean, he mowed the yard and he took care of the car, washed the car, went on errands, did that kind of stuff for us. One of our caretakers, cuidadores, stole a couple pairs of my pants that were drying in the backyard on the laundry line. Like in 14 years, that was the crime we experienced. Now, truth be told, we were home in bed, 10 o'clock at night. Like, I mean, and if you're, crime is local. Like crime is local. There are great parts of Chicago. I'm in Chicago right now. That's my hotel room. So I'm up here meeting with a bunch of realtors and realtor associations for we have a lot of realtors that refer business to us. Anyway, so I'm up in Chicago. You know what? There are parts of Chicago that I think are probably pretty dangerous.
Like the whole damn city. They kill 12, 15 people a weekend there.
What? I'm in Chicago and nobody's killing anybody where I am, okay? So, so the point is crime is local. Same thing in Nicaragua, Belize, Panama, wherever, Mexico, right? I mean, there are places that you don't want to go because that's where the crime happens. But the vast majority of all these countries is very safe because, crime is very local, right? But let's go back to the investment question because this is what you ask about specifically. Here's the thing. There are no guarantees. I mean, eminent domain, United States. I mean, they took a whole bunch of people's houses in, I think it was Connecticut or something, and whatever, to put in Walmarts, right? They took people's homes to put in Walmarts because the Walmarts would generate more tax for that local community in Connecticut. Okay, so I mean, think about that. The government took your home to build a Walmart, okay? So
it's like a gateway decision, Mike, and they can do it at any time. All they have to say is we get more tax money from giving your house to that guy and your house is gone in
and
America.
your house is gone. This is the United States government taking your home. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's be clear that governments can take property, U.S. government included, right? The Nicaraguan government can take property, but unlike the U.S. government, where I don't think foreign investment into the United States dropped one iota when that happened. Okay, the moment that a country like Nicaragua, not just Nicaragua, but a country like Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Belize, pick a country, right? Developing country. The moment they take a foreigner's property, foreign investment is going to go to zero or close to it. So, you know what? There is this strong economic imperative not only to protect foreign investors, which they do, right? Because it's very self-serving to protect foreign investors, taxes, jobs, right? But to actually create policies and programs that encourage foreign investment. Please come to our country. Please create jobs. Please pay taxes, right? And so it's the exact opposite of so much of what we find in the U.S. and Canada, where it's, I mean, this is the time, how many, I forget the number, you said 10,000 people a day or whatever was leaving California, right? And they're finding more favorable places in the U.S. to go, right? There are states in the United States that generally want business and have programs and incentives to do that. But when you go outside the United States to a country like Nicaragua, whatever they're offering in the U.S. pales in comparison to what these countries offer, because they really, really, really want foreign investment. And then once it's there, they really, really, really protect foreign investors. So of all the countries in the region, Carter, of all the countries in the region, I personally, the Cobb family, it's actually my wife's, of course it is, right? What's mine is hers, what's hers is hers. But anyway, our family, Nicaragua is where we have the most property that's personally owned. As a company, we own, property all over the region. But as a family, Nicaragua is where we've chosen to own the most property personally, because I'd rather buy $10 acres in Solomon Island and let my children 60 years from now, right, get $300,000 an acre. I don't need the money, right? So like I'm gonna buy very inexpensive property, and my kids and my grandkids, if and when they need money, they can sell it for many, 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 many multiples of what I was able to own property for. So again, that's us personally, but I think for many investors, wanting to get the appreciation of asset over time, a country like Nicaragua is a bullseye.
It's a bullseye for what in the investment world we call accumulated equity. Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. Okay, we only have like 3 or 4 minutes, so I'm going to ask you, not to put you on the spot, but if you could say to the people right now who are listening to you and thinking, you know what, that does sound like a good investment, give us 3 places in Nicaragua that you would say, hey folks, look at these places to invest in. And let me say 4, because one of them, honest to God, would be Grand Pacifica. If you can get a beachfront home for $129,000, a gorgeous beachfront home in Grand Pacifica that would cost you probably $500,000 here or more, that's a great investment.
Yeah.
Or more. In some places, as much. Where else? I like Jinotega. I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Yeah, Jinotega.
And Matagalpa.
Matagalpa.
I've seen great prices.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. So you've got, and these are big coffee growers. Jinotega is actually cigars and coffee. So if you like smoking fine cigars and you like drinking fine coffee, Jinotega, Matagalpa, beautiful homes, very, very affordable homes, farms if you want to own a farm, or if you really want to own like a coffee plantation. There, people sell their coffee plantation. So you could look at that. Another place that I would look at would be Granada, Nicaragua. It's a 500-year-old colonial city. You can buy an old colonial home. They actually have a lot of historical restoration restrictions. A lot of people don't like the restrictions, but I mean, they're trying to preserve this 500-year-old architectural heritage. So if you buy one of the homes there, you have to follow the rules and the guidelines when you fix it back up. But it's so inexpensive and it's just so beautiful. I mean, just spectacular. So, Matagalpa, Jinotega up in the mountains, and then the colonial homes in Granada. And then if you're looking for just a piece of beachfront property kind of way out in the middle of nowhere, up near Conseguina, there are some beautiful beach properties in the northern part of the country that are extremely affordable, that would be a good investment for the long term. It'll be a long time before there's any real services or tourism there. But if you said, look, my time frame's 20 years, I just want to buy and hold, something in the Conseguina area would be a really good opportunity. And thank you, Carter. Yeah, Grand Pacifica, again, location. You're buying into a residential community with a golf course, homes, condos, restaurants, tennis courts, all the stuff that people look for. And so if you own an oceanfront condo for $139,000, it'll rent. So not only will you see great appreciation over the next 10, 15 years, you'll actually see very nice cash flow as well. So again, depending on your investment ideas and what you're looking for, there are some great opportunities in Nicaragua. And by the way, that Nicaragua handbook, again, not a sales document.
Sure.
It talks about the country.
Sales document, it's free.
Yeah, and it's free. It's free. That's right. And it talks about the different regions of the country that we just talked about. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Grenada as a starting point, get the Nicaragua handbook. Look at the section on Grenada and check it out, or the mountains, whatever.
All right, folks. So there we have it. Episode 1 is in the can of Open Mike with his, I guess, guest host.
Yes.
Carter.
Thank you. Thank you, Carter. Yeah.
And incredible investment advice. Look, I'm telling you, this investment advice is worth its weight in gold. Okay, I work for other investment houses in this country, and people pay their weight in gold for that information. This you're getting free from the offshore investment expert. So, Mike, thank you. This has been great. It's good seeing you again.
Yep. And have a nice weekend.
And we'll do it again next Friday.
Yes,
thank you, sir.
All right. Bye.
For more information on the Offshore Club or to contact Mike Cobb, visit offshore.club today. Offshore.club. See you next time at the Offshore Club.